Under the flickering neon glow of a dive bar in a dusty corner of Reno, Nevada, the air was thick with the stench of cheap whiskey and cigarette smoke. It was a late summer night in 2024, the kind where the heat clung to your skin like a bad memory. The jukebox groaned with a gritty country tune, its twang cutting through the low hum of conversation. In the midst of it all stood Clara, a woman who didn't belong not in the eyes of the leather-clad bikers and roughneck locals who filled the place. Her plain black t-shirt, faded jeans, and scuffed boots screamed ordinary, but the way she carried herself, shoulders squared and eyes sharp, told a different story. At 28, she was lean, her dark hair tied back in a no-nonsense braid, her face bare of makeup or pretense. She'd come to this hole-in-the-wall joint to meet an old friend from her unit, someone who'd left a cryptic voicemail about needing to talk. But the bar had other plans for her, as places like this always did. Clara sat at a wobbly table near the back, her glass of water leaving a damp ring on the scarred wood. She kept her head low, her hands steady, waiting. The crowd didn't notice her at first, not until they did. It started with a guy named Rusty, his leather vest stretched tight over a beer gut, his eyes glinting with the kind of cruelty that thrives in a room full of enablers. "Hey, darlin'," he called, his voice slicing through the music. "You lost? This ain't no place for a girl like you." His buddy snickered, their laughter spreading like wildfire. Clara didn't look up. She sipped her water, her fingers calm on the glass, but Rusty wasn't one to let silence slide. He swaggered over, boots thudding, and leaned in close. "What? You too good to talk? Look at those clothes, bet you're just here to mop the floor." The crowd roared, their glasses clinking in approval. A woman with brassy blonde hair and a smirk sharp as a switchblade joined in, leaning against the bar. "Sweetie, you're out of your league," she said, her voice dripping with fake sugar. "That sure did you dig it out of a dumpster?" She flicked her wrist, sending a splash of her drink toward Clara's table, the liquid landing just shy of her hand. The room chuckled, feeding off the spectacle. Clara's eyes flicked to the blonde, then to the wet spot on the table. She moved her glass an inch to the left, her fingers brushing the edge with deliberate care. The blonde's smirk wavered, but she laughed it off, turning to her friends for validation. They gave it, loud and eager. Another biker, a wiry guy named Cal with a shaved head and a chain dangling from his belt, tried a softer approach, his smile all teeth and no warmth. "Come on, hon, why so serious? You're killing the vibe." He reached over, knocking her glass. Water spilled across the table, soaking her sleeve. The room laughed again, louder this time. Clara didn't flinch. She pulled a napkin from her pocket, wiped the table slow and steady, and set the glass upright. "Enough," she said, her voice low but heavy, like a stone dropped in still water. Cal's fake smile slipped, but he laughed it off, egged on by the crowd. "Oh, she's got a voice. Got some spine, huh?" The taunts kept coming, each one sharper, meaner. An old man, his face weathered like cracked leather, pointed a gnarled finger from his stool by the jukebox. "Look at her, sitting there like she's at a damn tea party. You think you're better than us, don't you? Bet you're broke as hell." His voice was a rasp, his cough wet and ugly. Clara's hand paused on her glass, her fingers tightening just enough to notice. "Better's not about money," she said, her voice quiet but cutting through the noise like a blade. The old man's sneer froze, and the crowd's laughter faltered, sensing something shift. Rusty wasn't done. He circled her table, his voice booming. "You don't belong here, girl. This is our place." He leaned in, his whiskey breath hot on her face. Clara didn't move, her eyes locked on his, unreadable. "You done?" she asked, her voice calm as a still lake. The question hit like a slap, and for a moment, the bar went quiet. Then Rusty's buddies laughed, covering the tension, and he sneered. "You're gonna regret that, princess." That's when it happened. A scrawny biker named Eddie, half drunk and squinting from the sidelines, noticed something. As Clara reached for her glass, a jagged scar ran down her forearm, white and puckered, the kind that comes from war, not accidents. He nudged his friend, muttering, "That look like a shrapnel scar to you?" His friend, a stocky guy named Mitch, laughed so hard he choked. "You're wasted, man. She's soft as a pillow." The group erupted, their laughter cruel and sharp. Clara's eyes flicked to Eddie, cold and precise, and he froze, his beer halfway to his mouth. The energy turned uglier. A massive biker named Tank, his arms inked with skulls and his face flushed with liquor, stomped over, his boots shaking the floor. "You think you're tough," he growled. Without warning, he grabbed Clara's shirt and yanked, tearing it across her shoulder. The rip echoed, and the crowd howled, leaning forward, hungry for weakness. But then the neon light hit her skin, and the room froze. There, stark against her pale shoulder, was a Marine Corps tattoo, globe, and anchor, a symbol that carried weight beyond ink. Tank's hand stilled, his mouth half open. "Marine Corps," he stammered, stepping back. The laughter died, replaced by the hum of the neon sign. A grizzled veteran at the bar, his hands curled around a whiskey glass, leaned forward. "My God," he muttered. "She's a devil dog." The words rippled through the crowd, heavy and real. Clara stood there, her torn shirt hanging loose, her posture unyielding. She didn't cover herself, didn't run. She just stood, her presence a wall. A woman with garish red lipstick and dangling earrings stepped forward, her voice sharp. "So what? It's just a tattoo. Probably got it to impress some guy." The crowd murmured, some nodding, others unsure. Clara's hand paused on her bag, her eyes steady but not cruel. "You sure about that?" she asked, her voice soft but piercing. The woman's smirk faltered, and she turned away, muttering, "Whatever." A man in a faded flannel shirt stood, his chair scraping loud. He'd been silent all night, his beer untouched. "You're all fools," he said, pointing at the bikers. "That tattoo ain't just ink. I saw a woman like her in Kabul, pulling a guy out of a wrecked Humvee under fire. You don't know who you're messing with." His words hung heavy, and the crowd shifted, some looking away, others staring at Clara with new eyes. The tension snapped when a wiry biker with a chipped tooth, desperate to save face, smashed a beer bottle on the table. "Prove it, sweetheart," he shouted, his hands shaking. Clara didn't flinch. She cracked her wrist, a faint smile tugging at her lips, not mocking, just there. In 3 seconds, it was over. She moved like lightning, twisting his arm and locking his neck in a hold that dropped him to the floor, unconscious. The bar went silent, the only sound the thump of his body and the jukebox's wail. The bartender, a weathered man with a limp, leaned over the counter, his eyes wide. He pulled out a faded Marine Corps cap and set it on the bar. "This was my brother's," he said, his voice low. "Lost him in '03. Clara's eyes flicked to the cap, her fingers pausing. "He'd be proud you kept it," she said, her voice steady. The bartender turned away, wiping his face with a rag. A teenage girl, barely noticed until now, slipped through the crowd, her phone trembling in her hands. "I got it all," she said, showing a blurry clip of Clara's takedown. "It's going viral." Clara's eyes flicked to the screen. "Put it away," she said, firm but calm. The girl nodded, her face flushed with awe. The biker leader, a gray-bearded man named Bull, stepped forward, his voice low and mean. "Marine or not, you're just a woman. I'll crush you." He spit on the floor, the sound sharp in the quiet. Clara's fist clenched, her eyes burning with something that made the room feel small. In a breath, she swept his legs, sending him crashing down, his face red with shock. "Once a Marine, always a Marine," she said, her voice steel. The veteran saluted, slow and deliberate, and the bar erupted not in laughter, but in awe. A young man burst through the door, clutching a crumpled photo of Clara in uniform. "This is you, right?" he said, his voice breaking. "You saved my brother's life in Syria. Carried him 3 miles. Clara nodded, her jaw tight, her fingers brushing her dog tag through her pocket. The room held its breath. Clara didn't stay. She slung her bag over her shoulder, her torn shirt flapping, and walked out, the crowd parting in silence. The veteran called after her, "Semper Fi, sister." She nodded once and was gone. The bar stayed quiet long after, the weight of her presence lingering. Rusty lost his job at a local garage. Bull's bike shop sponsorship vanished. The blonde who'd thrown the drink found herself shunned, her laughter hollow. The bar changed, the jukebox softer, the stories heavier with respect. Clara didn't need to come back. Her truth had done its work. But what about you? Would you have stepped in, or stayed silent like the crowd? Is strength in the ink, the scars, or the silence? Drop a comment, hit that like button, and subscribe to keep these stories alive. What's the moment you stood your ground or wish you had?